But right now, you need you need to listen to me, right? You need to drop your pride, right? Can you just shut up, right, for 5 minutes? Timmy's got a game, right? I'm just going to try to get this out in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Um, if you if you don't, then don't, right? I ain't trying to force you to do anything, man. Um, but I know you're at the end of your rope, right? I know that it feels like the walls are coming down on you, and I know that you feel like you've let God down, or you haven't lived up to what you know maybe you thought that you should. Um, but it's like he's not surprised. He's not surprised when we fall short, man. He's not surprised when we don't come through the way that we think that we should. He exists in a different time and space. Like we exist on what's called like a linear timeline, right? Like there's a past, a present, and a future. Like when we do things that surprise us, like we're disappointed, right? But I mean, like he's not disappointed, man. Like he knew exactly where you would be, at this moment. Okay, it's not a surprise to him. Like if he loved you then he loves you now, right? The only person that's beating yourself up is you. And I know that because I mean, like that's been me for so long. Like wouldn't the enemy just love for us to believe that God has had it with us, right? That he just gave up on us, and um, he can't do anything. Like how stupid is that? How petty is that? Um, when I was younger, I spent so much time praying and praying and praying, and I would make these deals with God, right? And um, man, if he could only get me out of trouble, man, if he could just get me out of this one more time, man, I would double down. And it got to the point where I couldn't even pray anymore because I just felt so stupid. Because like every time God would come through, God's faithful, and I just couldn't, man. I buckled under pressure every single time, you know. And there was a little period, there was a period where I didn't talk to God for a long time, um, because I just didn't have anything to say. I was like, God, like how could he how could he forgive me so many times? How could he love me despite all the things that I did? Like, have you known the things that I've done? You know, and it kept me away from him, man. And that was just the enemy. That's just the enemy. Just doing what he does, man. And he's got you right now. He's got you really tightly, right? He's got you to the point where like I can't get through to you, right? Um, he got Lynn to the point where like nobody could get through to Lynn either, right? Um, you got to fight through that, right? This is a battle that I can't fight for you. I can't crawl inside your heart, your mind, man. You got to do that. You know, I think I've told you the story of Chantelli's first word, right? And um, I kid you not, man, it went down just like this. Um, Man, she was like, we had this glass kind of coffee table, man, and she wasn't walking yet, but she was like kind of like standing herself up, and she like kind of walked like around, and um, we hadn't established that like I was her dad yet, but I was kind of hoping that, you know, I was kind of hoping that maybe she would let me, you know, have the job, and I'm, I think that she was kind of hoping that I would take the job too, but as far as she knew, if there's a dad and a mom, like well, that's my mom, that crazy lady over there, that's my mom, um, and this must be my dad, right? And I kid you not, man, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was just coming in through the blinds, and she knocked something over, right? And I, you know, popped my head around the corner. I'm like, Chantelli, what'd you do? And she looked up, and I kid you not, like the rays of sunshine were coming in, shining right on her, and she looked up and she was like, da da. And I was like, oh, you know, like the Spirit of the Lord descended upon Chantelli that day. And I said, this is my child whom I am proud. And let me tell you, Parisa was not excited about her first word, uh, but I was, right. And so all, like for the next few weeks, man, every day, all day, man, we must have been just so irritating. It was just like, who loves you? Da da. Like, who are you gonna be with forever? Da da. Like, who's gonna put you down? Da da. Like, it was just da da everything, right? And I was just so excited, right? Because I never really wanted to be a dad, and I never even really, thought about it. And here was this little girl, and it's just, it felt good, like that she would call, on my name, and so when people come over, I'd be like, dude, this is my child, and she speaks, dude, listen to her. And I'd be like, Chantelli, who do you love? And she'd be like, right? Chantelli's like really, really shy, and she, she just couldn't do it. I would try to bribe her with like candy or like, and we would practice, and somebody come over, and I'd be like, Chantelli, who loves you? And she'd be like, you're crazy, and she'd like look at the person like, you believe this guy? He thinks I talk. And like it didn't like bother me, but it kind of bothered me, because I was really proud of her, and I wanted to show her off, and I was proud that she said daddy, but like she just buckled every time, man. People would be like, it's all right, Randy, hey, I believe you, man. And I'd be like, no, sit down, you're gonna hear her say daddy. I wasn't the well polished individual and pastor that today. Anyways, I kind of gave up on it, after a while, and we moved out to Long Beach, and we didn't have a whole lot of friends, we didn't have a whole lot of money, and I'd been meaning to get her like a righteous crib, but for the time we had one of those pack and plays, right, in the things with the the things where you had to like pop up the sides, right, and we used that thing. We just brought it everywhere, right? And it was like her crib at home. It was her crib like everywhere. And eventually, like those things, the sides just stop popping, and it'll still stand up, but it's shaky at best, right? So one day I put her down for a nap, and a few minutes later, I was in the other room, and I just heard a da 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 da, right? And I came running, and I come around the corner, and the sides to this collapsible crib had like folded in, and they were literally like swallowing Chantelli, and she was like reaching out to me with these big old crocodile tears, like like daddy, like calling out. And a few things happened that day. A few things happened in that moment. First thing that didn't happen was I didn't stand at the door, right, and remind her of all the times that she didn't come through for me. I didn't stand there and say, hey man, like now you know my name, hey, you know my name when you need something, but hey, how come when Papa was here earlier, man, you didn't seem to know my name then, right? I didn't make a deal with her, right? I didn't say, hey, I'm gonna get you out of this one, but like, hey, let's be honest, man, you haven't come through with any of these promises, man. You haven't come through with any of these deals, right? Like, what kind of father would I be if I did that? I came running, man. I came running, and I swooped her up, and I kicked that stupid pack and play, and I said, this isn't good enough for you, right? And I didn't have a whole lot of money, man, but like the next day, man, we had a like big, beautiful, like white sleigh crib, right? 1,000 times I would come running, right? And not only that, but like I was excited, man. I was excited that like when she was in trouble, when her walls were literally coming down, like, hey, she called on me, right? Hey, did you hear that? You hear that? Hey, when she was in trouble, Chantelli called me. She knew who her daddy was. She knew my name, right? A lot of times we want to just make God just so petty, right? And we think that he's sitting there keeping a record of wrongs, and just pointing out to us, like all the ways that we've fallen, when in all reality he's waiting for us to call out. He loves that we call out to him. That's why he created us to be in relationship with him. And he's not surprised by the things that we do, and so he's just waiting for us to call out. And I mean, it's just us. It's us that just refuses not to. My favorite, I'm sure it's not a big surprise to you. My favorite parable is the parable, the prodigal son, right? And we won't, the story. My favorite part, almost one of my favorite parts in the Bible, right? It says, when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here without hunger? Hey, remember, you are worth more than sparrows. I will arise and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he rose and came to his father. But while he was still a long ways out, his father saw him. He felt compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. He went running, right? The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against you, and before you, I'm no longer worthy to be called your. And this is probably like a little script that he had in his head, like he probably rehearsed it the whole time that he was walking there, But the father said to his servants, quickly bring the best robe, put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us celebrate. For my son was dead, and now he was alive again. He is lost, and he is found. He said, that life is no longer good enough for you. I got something so much better. Right? I can't fight this battle for you. Right? You got to do it, man. You got to just show up, man. Half of life's battle is just showing up, man. Show up at church. Get on ground. Get on your knees. And just cry out and say, here I am, God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need you. Please help me. And he will. He'll respond, man. He will come running every time. Promise. Trust me on this one, man.